Hello, I'm Dr. Mary Meehan. As a Catholic university, Seton Hall University is committed to supporting educational achievement within our community. That's why we're proud to support the important educational programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ. The Nicholson Foundation, supporting Right from the Start NJ. Hackensack Meridian Health, Seton Hall University, where leaders learn. New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. Kessler Foundation, changing the lives of people with disabilities. And by Suez, ready for the resource revolution. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Monthly, the magazine of the Garden State, available at newsstands. And by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No. People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Welcome to the Tisch WNET studio here in Lincoln Center, heart of New York City. It is our pleasure to welcome someone who is recognizable just about everybody watching right now. He is John Edward, psychic, medium, the pride of Long Island. What part of the island?
Now Huntington.
You know, we were just talking about this before we got in there. By the way, you'll see how to find John now. We're talking about his online world, his digital world, compared to the world that you were in. When you broke into television nationally, you said you were about 30.
Yep.
Who found you and why? What did they see in you?
I actually was doing a book, and I loved radio. And the reason why I loved radio was because it was live, and people couldn't accuse me of being edited because it was live. So radio was my go-to for all sorts of media. And plus, it gave me anonymity. So people knew my name, they knew my voice, but I could walk around and nobody would stop me. So when I had my book come out, I said I was going to promote it on radio, and the publisher said, no, you have to go on television. And I'm an admitted control freak, and I was like, I don't do TV, I do radio. And they said, well, that's great. Radio's not going to sell your book. TV's going to sell that book, and if you don't go on TV, we're not going to publish it. So because I wanted to make sure that the producers of the TV shows were going to treat the subject matter with respect, I personally would call the shows and talk to the producers to see which ones would be friendly to the subject matter and treat it with, I didn't care if they were skeptical, but at least be respectful and not do like, gotcha journalism or try to put something together in a negative way. And I met two producers, and they said to me, would you let us put a TV show together for you? And I said, no, I'm not really interested in the show. They go, we think you could be a show. And I said, I think I could be a national call-in radio show. If you want to do that, we could do that. And they said, give me 6 months. And 6 months later, we're filming the pilot for Crossing Over.
Crossing Over is such a phenomenon. When did you realize you had a gift?
I was told at the age of 15. I come from a family that my mom's side of the family was very open to the subject matter. My dad was a New York City police officer and a career military guy, not open to the subject matter.
Not open.
Not even a little bit. Forbid me to be around it when my mom and grandmother and uncles would have psychics come to the house. My mom and dad split. I wound up moving into my grandmother's house, which is like the hub of paranormal activity. And I had adopted his philosophy, but they had a woman come to the house. Her name was Lydia Clark, and she did a reading for me that changed the course of my life.
How?
She told me stuff that there's no way that she possibly could have known. She was the one who said to me, she goes, you have this ability. I'm here today to put you on your path. I don't normally do house parties, it's like, I came here today because I wanted to. She had previously read my mom, and she picked up, I guess, on my abilities through my mom. And then, said she would come to the house. And she said to my mom, the one caveat was she had to meet me. So my mom came home and said, this woman's gonna come to the house. Like, she doesn't do that, but she wants to meet you. And I was like, what? Like, I felt like bait, like I was the bait. But I was a sophomore in high school, smart-ass sophomore in high school, very sarcastic. And I had adopted my dad's philosophy. So I was the person who that day, I think she read like 17 people, and every one of the people that was coming out of the room, I was literally pulling apart their reading or trying to, and I had a hard time. So I went, and I was.
It changed your life.
It changed my life.
What did she tell you about you?
Well, the first part she told me was that I had like white and gold energies, like waiting to kind of like work with me, and I was going to change the way the world looked at her subject matter. That I was going to lecture around the world. I was going to be a published author in her field, and I was 15. So
you think what?
No, I jokingly say she could have said she landed her spaceship in my grandma's backyard, and she was going to take me for a spin. And then she was very accurate with like little things that were happening in high school, like relationship dynamics that were not general, outcomes that were not general. And I always say that it didn't feel, wow, that was cool. It felt violated. Like I didn't like it. So like I'm very, very clear. So I tell people that when I had the reading, I didn't go, oh, I'm psychic. I went, whoa, I don't like this. This woman entered in my space. It feels like when your house is broken into, somebody else is in your house and it's a little creepy. So I wanted to know how that could never happen again. Like putting on like a security alarm in your house. And I went to the local public library and I was embarrassed to check out the books. They were all under the occult section back then. Occult. It was 1985. Right. No new age. It was like all occult. So the word was intimidating for me. And I sat on the floor because I wouldn't check the books out. And I read every book that they had. And that was the moment that I recognized, wait a second. So like this common sense thing that I thought I had is not common sense. Like I might be getting a little extra help here. And then I started developing, and that meant I was looking at astrology and numerology and tarot and psychometry and the I Ching and meditation and chakras and a deep dive. And my development was very, very quick.
So I'm curious about a lot of things when it comes to you, but one of them is, how careful are you, how much do you think about when you are, in fact, reading someone to not, quote, violate, I'm going back to how you describe your own experience, to not violate their sense?
I am very aware that there are energetic rules that universally should be applied to this. Like, right now we're in this Me Too movement, right? And it's about consent. Well, I kind of feel the same way energetically, and it's a universal Me Too. It's like you should never enter someone's vibration without their permission. So if someone's coming to me for reading, if I'm doing a reading for somebody, that's different because now I'm sitting there. And even then, if I'm going to get into something that's going to be personal, like last night at an event in Staten Island, there were a number of things that came through during this event. People are there, they bought a ticket, they want the information. I'm still very aware that I'm going to deliver something that's going to be private and personal in front of a crowd of people. So I'll say to them, may I be personal? Then I give them the information in a way that they're going to understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I might look like I'm being general to everybody else, but they know exactly what I'm talking about.
John, let's do this. Gina, set this up. There's a clip of John where? Do you know where it is?
This was at an online members-only event from Long Island.
Let's check it out. It's John Edward.
I don't know if this is your father, but I have like a father who's here. Okay, were you hoping to hear from Dad today? Now, did you give Dad the strictest of orders that he had to come through?
I did.
Okay. You were trying to figure out, like, I wish I would have said this, I wish I would have done that, but you did it after he passed.
I did.
He's now telling me that you guys had this.
Oh, Daddy. Oh.
What's that like for you to see, to watch, to listen to?
So the God's honest truth is when I watch that, because I've seen that before, is I look at that and you're going to think this is completely crazy. I'm like, wow, I'm 10 pounds lighter there. That's the first thing that's the first thing that I think about when I see something.
What's the second thing?
The second thing is this woman is actually really getting the message, and she's being moved, and she acknowledged her father directly. And part of my message has always been, for all the years of doing this, to say to people, you don't need me. Like, if I could just demonstrate for people that this exists and they can have that own conversation. We live in a world where people text constantly. Text. They shorten their words, they use emojis, they text constantly. Well, why not follow that symbolic form of communication with somebody who's crossed? Why not project out to them what your thoughts are? A lot of people wait for it to happen to them instead of being half that bridge.
How do you deal with the numerous skeptics, critics, cynics, say...
I respect them.
You respect them?
I respect them. And the reason why I respect them is I feel like if I want that back, I have to give that. So I never attack the critics. I never attack the cynics. I never attack the skeptics. I never attack them. And I think part of it is because I came from that place. I came from that, so I kind of understand. So if someone's coming from a place of being ignorant to understanding something, I can't attack the ignorance. I just would prefer not the personal attacks. But it goes with the territory. So
Sure does.
I suck it up.
Before I let you go, Evolve is?
Evolve was my passion project. So when I left television, I decided I wanted to do this online and be accessible immediately internationally because I wanted to actually teach more. So if I was doing a TV show, it might air here in the States, but then it's going to be syndicated later on. If there's something timely, there's something like an eclipse is happening, astrological, and I want to have an astrologer on to talk about it and what does that mean for a person and choices and decisions to empower, that happens immediately online. So I created Evolve, which is on johnedward.net. It's kind of an online community. So I kind of pioneered the subject matter on TV, and now I'm trying to pioneer it online.
Listen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We're now joined by Bonnie Eggenburg, Vice President, Gateway Early Head Start and Head Start Program. Bonnie, great for joining us. We appreciate it. This is part of our Right from the Start NJ initiative. I met you recently at a forum we did together with the folks at Advocates for Children of New Jersey. We're talking about the child care environment. One of the things you talk a lot about is caregivers' pay. Who are we talking about and how bad is the pay?
The pay is not a living wage. It doesn't even come close to being a living wage. If you're talking about teachers of children from 0 to 3, you're talking about pay ranging anywhere from minimum wage to maybe $12 an hour on the average. So you're talking about people who are actually having to take access to resources and are living in poverty.
Okay, but play this out for a second. And by the way, check out our website throughout all of these segments as part of this ongoing series right from the start. And Jay, you look at our website, there's important information, educational information, information for parents, advocacy information, a whole range of important information. But in that spirit, go back to the kids. We're talking about birth to 3.
Yes.
If that's the problem with caregivers and their pay, or lack thereof, what impact does it have on those infants and toddlers?
Well, there tends to be a lot of turnover in that 0 to 3 range in terms of teachers, because teachers will come in, they'll get the training that they need to be excellent teachers, but they also recognize they can't support a family on that. So a year later, maybe less, they'll leave for something that pays better. And at that age...
That child loses that teacher?
Loses that
Then
teacher.
What?
And that interrupts that bonding that happens that's so important at that early age. Children need to feel secure and they need to feel safe. And when they have that, then they're able to actually grow, develop, and learn. Without that, with that lack of continuity, that becomes a problem.
You know, as you're talking about this, Bonnie, I realize that so much of this for parents watching, all right, from the Start NJ series are asking, so what do I do? Part of what you and your organization are all about is to give advice to parents. Talk about that.
Well, I would say in terms of trying to support quality in infant toddler caregiving, I think that it's important for parents to be active in letting...
Define what that means. How hard do you push?
Well, in Head Start, in Early Head Start, we have a parent group. And we keep that parent group informed on what's happening in the state and at the federal level. And we give them the tools. We don't give them the direction, but we give them the tools they need to be able to make decisions on how they want to pursue what they need for their children.
So much of this is about socioeconomic issues, as we've learned and researched in this series. There are a high percentage of parents, single parents, a child who has both parents, whatever the situation is, where the economics of this make it very challenging to provide that child with the early care he or she needs, correct?
Absolutely. If I'm a low income or even a lower middle income family, the chances are I'm not going to be able to afford high quality early childhood care. Because if I am relying on a state subsidy, that subsidy rate is about half of what New York pays.
Half?
Yes.
New Jersey pays half of what New York pays for. Describe that subsidy. What are we talking about?
In New Jersey, if I'm an infant toddler child care provider, I can get reimbursed around $695 a month for child care. In New York, it's about double. In Pennsylvania, it's about $300 more a month. But we know New Jersey is a very expensive place to live. And we know that if you're going to have high-quality infant toddler care, you need to bring in high-quality people.
So what impact does it have on the actual decisions that are made by parents as to what to do with their infants and toddlers?
A lot of them end up going to their grandmother and asking. And sometimes that grandma is a very active, involved person.
Or grandpa.
Or grandpa.
But what?
But sometimes they have to rely on TV because they need a break. They have to rely on
digital devices, et cetera.
Yes.
And the downside of that in terms of an infant or toddler's development is
that they're not getting the interaction with adults. There's lots of research out there to show that learning programs on an iPad are not nearly effective as when an adult is directly involved with a child. Reading a book face-to-face with your child is going to be much more meaningful in terms of developing vocabulary than playing a game on an iPad.
And real quick, for those who don't know what Head Start's all about, describe it real quick.
Head Start and Early Head Start is a federally funded program, 0 to 3, and we even work with pregnant moms. It is free, it is comprehensive.
So it's prenatal as well?
Yes, it is.
Because?
Because we know...
How's that part of the Right from the Start initiative? I'm sorry for interrupting. Why is prenatal part of Right from the Start NJ?
We know a lot of moms don't go and get prenatal care, and so it's so important that somebody is there walking side by side with them during those early months of the baby's development in utero. And sometimes that means helping them to realize that they need to go to the doctor, to go to the dentist, to get all of that prenatal care, but also to provide education so that when that baby is born and is not sleeping through the night, that they have some tools to cope with all of what they're going through.
Final question, because I asked you about Head Start. I cut you off a little bit.
That's okay.
It is a federally funded program, which means tax dollars supported. For those watching right now say, you know what? Everyone should, quote, take care of their own infant and toddler. You say?
I say that not everybody is either ready to take care of their infant and toddler, and a lot of people have to work. And so we're able to provide that support. Sometimes we need respite care, sometimes we need care while mom and dad are working. Sometimes we are a family who doesn't speak English and wants to give that child a head start, even from those very early years.
And by the way, before I let you go, and when we don't, Bonnie, when that child does not get a quote-unquote head start, what is ahead for that child as opposed to when he or she gets it?
They're going to start school a step back from everybody else, and they may never, ever catch up. We know in Head Start that there's a higher success rate in terms of graduating from high school, less likely to become pregnant as a teenager, less likely to be incarcerated, and more likely to earn as much as $5,000 a year more as an adult.
Because of an early Head Start?
Because of early Head Start and Head Start programs.
Which makes it clear that it's everyone's responsibility, not just one who is fortunate enough to have the resources to get the care for their infants and toddlers. Bonnie, thank you not just for being with us as part of this Right from the Start NJ series, but more importantly, for everything that you do every day for countless children across the state, and Head Start has been doing, I believe, since the 1960s, if I'm not mistaken. Correct. It was the Johnson administration was a part of the Great Society?
That's correct.
Just want to check my history.
Yes.
Bonnie, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We're pleased to welcome Rebecca Robertson, who is the founding president and executive producer, Park Avenue Armory, which is located where?
It's located between 66th and 67th on Park Avenue.
So we're right at 66 and Broadway. He goes right across the park.
Yep.
And then?
And then there you are at this huge, gorgeous armory.
Make it come alive for us. We're going to show some pictures.
Okay.
What is it?
So what the armory is, and there's a picture of it there right now, it's 250,000 square feet. It's a full block. Right. And it was built by the kind of rich guys who ran the economy of New York in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s.
Right.
And it was built as they were part of the National Guard, but the National Guard was a volunteer unit. 1860s, yeah, 70s. And so basically they paid for this armory privately. They raised money for it. So it was the Astors and the Vanderbilts and the Schylers and all those Rhinelanders, all those New York families. But they wanted to have an armory that was really beautiful. So they paid for it themselves. It's the only privately built armory in the country.
Describe what is inside of it.
So it has 18 unbelievably beautiful period rooms, including the only period being sort of historic rooms. They are by the great designers of the 19th century, including Louis Comfort Tiffany, Stanford White, the Herder brothers. It's those important designers.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Look at that shot.
It was really built as a social club, I will say. I do believe. But then...
Like they hung out there?
Pardon me?
I mean, some folks hung out as a social...
Oh, absolutely.
Not like a social club down on Mulberry Street when I was a kid. Not like that kind.
Well, it was, actually.
But not for...
Just better food.
Not for
what can I tell you?
People from Naples, where my family is from. No. This is a different crowd.
Many of them actually originally from Holland, I think.
From Holland.
You know those families, the Schuyler's.
Got it.
Yeah, got it. Anyway, but they had incredible taste. So they hired these amazing designers who were building their cottages in Newport and their mansions on Fifth Avenue to do the interiors of this building.
Right.
So the Landmarks Commission called it the most important intact set of historic interiors in the country.
In the country.
In the country. So that's one part of it. And then behind those beautiful rooms, there is a 55,000 square foot drill hall, has no columns, and it was designed to look like the inside of a European train station. And it really is beautiful. I gotta say, I'm sure we have, there we are.
Oh,
now, we
my
don't do
God.
that anymore. So this was the concert that it opened with. It opened with a musical concert, and supposedly there were 6,000 people in the audience and 1,200 performers between chorus and musicians. We wouldn't be allowed to do that anymore. No fire laws.
Their performances, this is today.
Well, today we now have it. It's an art center. We are kind of a group of citizens who saved the building, and then we want to. Well, it was owned by the National Guard, but by the state of New York. It had kind of fallen onto hard times, and it really wasn't used very much.
Owned by the National Guard?
Yeah, the National Guard.
So not being.
It really wasn't used. I mean, they would rent it out from time to time, but it was sort of falling apart. And then, it really started to fall apart. So our founder, Wade Thompson, lived across the street, and he saw that the bricks were falling on the sidewalk. He saw the rats coming out of the building and the spalling of the brick. So he got together a group to sort of go to the government and say, give us the building, we will restore it, and we will turn it into a fantastic cultural center.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Who goes there? And by the way, more people go because of this. But what kind of folks find their way there and why?
Well, I think because in that drill hall, so what we decided would be something we could do in the New York cultural world that nobody does. You have to do something that nobody does.
It's got to stand out here.
It's got to stand out because in New York, they already do everything, right? So we thought what it was like was a big found space. So instead of a traditional theater where you go, you are...
what is that?
Sheep. Sheep are very...
What?
This was a sellout show. It was really great. So
I'm sorry, we just put this picture up. Make sense of that, because people won't get it.
Okay, so this is Dematterie that we did a year and a half ago. And these are some of the performers. Were 100 sheep that were... the shepherd was Zeppelins. We actually had 4 Zeppelins. It was a work by Louis Andriessen. Beautiful, beautiful work. And the sheep came in the 4th act, which meant we had to build a soundproof room because you couldn't hear them. You see, they'd have to come off stage. Right. Yeah, and they'd otherwise be going, bah, and you'd hear them in the audience. Yeah. We also flooded the drill hall at one time for performance.
Intentionally.
Yes, we've done it unintentionally a few times, but this was actually intentional.
What was the intentional flooding for?
That was a work by Douglas Gordon, who was doing, there was a piano series with Alain Grimaud, and Douglas Gordon, the video artist, was creating the mise en scène and decided what would be beautiful, because it was a program of water-related music, would be to fill the drill hall with 122,000 gallons of water, which would disappear. So when Hélène walked in, there was no water. And then as she started to play in the piano in the middle of the room, the whole room would flood up. Oh, it was stunning. It was really great. That's what we do, because you can't do this kind of work in a traditional theater.
You need an extraordinary space. By the way, you go all the way from that to one of my all-time favorites. By the way, Jen Eichlin, our executive producer, Bobby Carnival performed here. We need him here at WNET.
Yes.
What did he do there?
One of the best. Oh, my God. He was Yank and Harry Ape. The Hairy Ape, directed by Richard Jones. And what we did was we created a circular stage that was 137 feet in diameter. And it moved, exactly. And then it had sort of, they were like containers, and they would move around the audience that was in the middle. So all of these scenes moved, and that's Bobby.
That's
hanging
Bobby
onto a girder. Oh my God, it was an amazing, amazing. We had 8 Drama Desk nominations, which was exciting.
How much do you love? I got about a minute left. How much do you love your work?
Oh, I love my work.
You really
What
do.
could be more fun than having artists do crazy things they would never be able to do otherwise?
Talk about being able to do things that others didn't think were possible. We are in a certain space.
Yeah.
Lincoln Center. You had a hand in Lincoln Center before it was Lincoln Center.
I was. Well, not before it was Lincoln Center.
Before
but
we were
it was
this Lincoln Center is what I meant.
Yeah, totally.
Alice Tully, the whole, like...
Right. Yeah. I was the executive director of the redevelopment, yeah.
Oh, that thing.
Yeah. No, and can I say, and hired Liz Diller and Rick Scofidio and Charles Renfro. I mean, they are the designers beyond anything else, and that's what you see out there is their beautiful
You are the
work.
quintessential New Yorker. Were you born and raised here?
Toronto, Canada.
Are you kidding me?
No, seriously, I'm an immigrant.
Yes, that's why immigration is a great thing.
You got it.
Because you are here. Well done.
Thank you.
And that's why we're here
Thanks
at the
so
Tisch
much.
WNET studio at Lincoln Center. Thank you so much.
Really fun.
People
Thank
should go
you.
check it out.
Okay.
That was great.
One on One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One on One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by the Turl Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ. The Nicholson Foundation, supporting Right from the Start NJ. Hackensack Meridian Health, Seton Hall University, New Jersey Sharing Network, Kessler Foundation, and by Suez. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Perfectly orchestrated. In sync with your life. Hackensack Meridian Health is redefining how health and care come together. Because when everything works together, your world gets better. Hackensack Meridian Health, life years ahead.